Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. I'm about to cover both movies. Part one, because I'm lazy. I don't like either one of them like enough as a whole movie to do, two videos about them. And I want to do a second video about the MCU Spider-Man. So I'm just gonna do it like this. I'm gonna cover both of the movies, give my general thoughts on the franchise as a whole rather than each individual movie. Starting with Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. I always loved Andrew Garfield, even from jump. Maybe it was new car smell, but he just did it for me. I thought he was funny. I thought he was clever. As Spider-Man, he had that wit that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man never quite had. I mean, he was funny, but he was like, it was cheese. I could literally laugh out loud watching Andrew do what he does. The first Amazing Spider-Man movie was a retelling of the Spider-Man story, and this is where we kind of start running into problems. I was glad to see the lizard. I don't necessarily think it would have been cool to retread the Green Goblin right off the gate. It would have felt like we're literally just redoing the first Spider-Man movie. However, there's a lot of the culture that wasn't there that I was looking for. There was no, like, Harry Osborn doesn't even show up until the second one, and it almost feels like a retcon. Like Harry didn't exist in the first one at all, and then suddenly they wrote him in. The Uncle Ben in this movie I thought was cool. His Aunt May I thought was cool. Um, I don't really compare the two deaths. I think Uncle Ben, as he is written in this movie, he talks about responsibility. He doesn't give the line exactly, but he says a version of the line. And then when the store gets robbed or whatever, he tries to step in. That I mean, it seems Uncle Ben like to me, per what they described in that movie. I don't know. In these movies, Aunt May still felt relevant. She didn't just feel like a MILF like she does in the MCU. Not so much in the first Amazing Spider-Man, but definitely in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where she has to step up, which it kind of is always going to be the case. That Aunt May is going to be in the background more or less until Uncle Ben is out of the picture. So in that second movie, that speech where she has with Peter, where he's obsessed with his father, and she's starting to take it really personal. She's like, "Look, man, at the end of the day, I get it. He was your father, but there are some dark things that were going on with your father, and he wasn't here keeping you safe. He wasn't here keeping you healthy and fed and keeping a roof over your head. That was me. That was me doing that." And again, it's a human Aunt May. These monoliths of wisdom don't have to be unfeeling. They don't have to be perfect for me to respect them. I love that Aunt May in the Raimi trilogy has kind of a moment when she finds out about what happened to Uncle Ben, where she just can't even stand to be in the same room as Peter. I like in the Amazing Spider-Man when Aunt May gets jealous. I mean, I don't really know how to describe why I like it so much. I like the tension between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy's father. I like the fact that we got Gwen Stacy in like an actual, like, full film capacity instead of kind of like as a second thought in Spider-Man 3, the way she was there. What I was more interested in is the fact that Peter has had multiple love interests. Like if MCU had Betty Brant, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Just because I've seen Mary Jane, I've seen Gwen Stacy. Now they're doing Michelle. So the tension between Gwen Stacy's father and Peter Parker, that's great. It semi fills a void left by the absence of J. Jonah Jameson. But I don't know. It was fun enough watching Spider-Man be Spider, and I think that's ultimately what lifts these movies up for me. Amazing Spider-Man movies, watching Spider-Man just be Spider-Man, watching Andrew Garfield just stumble through his words and be awkward and just always giggling and watching his mind work. He invents his web shooters, which again I don't stress those kinds of things in terms of like Spider-Man has to have web shooters, but if he's not gonna have them, you need to show his intelligence in some other capacity. I don't think the Raimi trilogy ever really got a good grasp on how intelligent Peter Parker is, especially for his age. He's beyond just an artist; he's actually a genius. And in the second Spider-Man, he was helping to solve problems dealing with Electro, and then the lizard in the first Amazing Spider-Man, he helps finish that formula. Like he's a genius in these movies, and it's great. Let's talk about his parents. I don't care about his parents. I know in the comics they have some kind of like something to do with Peter Parker. I don't really know exactly what it is. I think they worked for Shield or something like that. Again, not the biggest Spider-Man fan, comics or movies. Um, But I know they have something to do, and maybe if the story was a little bit more, I don't want to say interesting because I don't want to say it was just boring, but maybe if there was more payoff. There didn't feel like a whole lot of emotional payoff with that story. I'll say the Amazing Spider-Man movies are bold. I don't want to say whether they are more or less bold than Raimi, because Raimi did make some gutsy choices. They're definitely bolder than the MCU Spider-Man movies have been so far. I still haven't seen No Way Home. I see that tomorrow, or by the time you see this, I will have seen it a couple of days ago. But up until No Way Home, I didn't really see the MCU Spider-Man making any like bold decisions. The Amazing Spider-Man kills off Gwen Stacy's father in the first movie, and in the second movie they go follow through with killing off Gwen Stacy. These are big deals. Now people talk about how it's kind of a moot point because everybody knows Gwen Stacy is the person that died, and that. But these movies are made for general audiences, and not everybody knows Gwen Stacy dies. I know a lot of people know Gwen Stacy exists outside of people who are fans of Spider-Man. They know now. Now I think the Amazing Spider-Man movies, the villains are the weakest of all of the versions of the character that we've gotten so far. Jamie Foxx plays a good Electro, but Electro was whack in that movie. Harry Osborn becoming Green Goblin in the final inning is whack. The Lizard, the story and concept is cool, Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing, but they didn't really cook it long enough for it to be what I think it could have been. The Gentleman, who shows up a couple of times, that's somebody who could have been like super like intriguing, but we didn't really do much with him. He just popped up a couple of times. It was clear that there was a bigger plan. It was clear that he was supposed to be involved in a greater capacity. I would give so much money for him to pop up in No Way Home. I doubt if he will, but it'd be great if he did. So I don't know anything about him from the comic books. I just like his style. He shows up. He's got a hat on. He's called the Gentleman, and he's completely enigmatic, which means that he could be anything. And I kind of like those things when you could be anything. I'm intrigued to know what you might be. We never got those answers. I guess I'll have to pick up a comic book and figure it out for myself. Which I'll do one day because I do want to know what the Gentleman is about. So I'll give it there. But the Rhino, terrible. I said before, and I said it in all of the movies, that I didn't think that Tobey Maguire was the best. So I wish I liked these movies as a whole better. Because it really sounds like I just got on here to say how inferior they are. But they're not. They're inferior as a whole, sure. But a lot of that has to do, I feel, one, the fact that it's not complete, and two, because he never got a third movie, and two, they were fighting an uphill battle from jump. People were not going to let go of Tobey Maguire. They weren't going to let go of those movies. And in their efforts to at least be a worthy successor of what came before, they put a few too many irons in the fire. For me, I'm not one of those people that needs something to be happening, something be blowing up every 5 minutes. So I can really get invested in the drama that was in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, the on again, off again between Peter and Gwen, the drama between him and Harry. Harry is dying and he wants Spider-Man's blood, and I can get involved with a lot of that stuff. It just feels like there's too much going on. And I really hope that's not No Way Home's problem. But it might be. Because history states that every Spider-Man franchise runs into this problem at some point. So it might happen. Hopefully it does not. I wish I had more energetic stuff to say about The Amazing Spider-Man. I really do think Andrew is the best one. I do. I think this Spider-Man is the coolest one. He's the funniest one. His costume looks the coolest. I love watching him the most. I do. Nothing like what I got to say about these next movies. I don't like MCU Spider-Man. I don't like him at all.